Hello and welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial I am going to attempt to explain to you how different sizes and measurements work between a couple of different programs. This is kind of a prelude to a series that I would like to do here fairly shortly, and is aimed at people who are mapping for Unity or creating things for Unity, who are modeling in Max or something similar, and who are designer textures in Photoshop, and they're trying to figure out how to get around all over the place here. So I got an image open here in Photoshop. If I go to image size, you see that this image is 512 by 512, and I'm using pixels. Pixels universally translates into whatever, as far as I can determine. This is not, set in stone, but from what I can determine, pixels translates into whatever unit of measurement that your program is set up to use. So these pixels would become centimeters or meters in Unity, that would become Unreal units for Unreal Tournament 2004, Unreal Tournament 3, the UDK, various other Unreal Engine games. It would be whatever your settings are in Max. In my case right now it's centimeters, so it would count to 512 centimeters. It's universally translated. I don't know how to explain it any better than that. You don't have to design images in Photoshop in centimeters in order for them to come out correctly in Unity or Max for a model to go into Unity, because it translates from the pixels, which makes it easier to work with. So this is the unit of measurement in general, as far as I can tell, that you're going to want to use almost consistently all the time in Photoshop when you're doing modeling and texturing and those sort of things. Now I've got a 500 and 512 centimeter cube open up over here in 3ds Max. Now 512 by 512 centimeters comes out to 5 meters, actually a little more than 5 meters. And that comes out to a little less than 15 feet if my math is correct, because each meter is just under 3 feet. So if we were to see this 500 and 512 cube in Unity, we would expect that it would be roughly twice the player's height, maybe a little higher. Anyway, we're going to apply this texture here, and no need to be fancy or nothing here. I'm just going to get in here and find I saved it as a DDS, so and just love my awesome texture. So we're going to go over here, we're going to add a map modifier to it, just really quick, a box, and then we'll collapse this, turn that off, file, save as. You always want to be saving, so well, okay. Are we going to let me save or not? What are you loading? Can't even cancel out of it. Okay, well, I was going to save it. I'm just going to export it. Screw that. I'm having problems with my computer. So we're going to call this a 512 cube. I'll just call it cube. And I'll show you my settings in Max here in a minute. So we're going to export it twice. We're going to export it as an AIC for Unreal Tournament. And these are what we have checked. And I'm going to export it as a GFX, no, not GFX, what's the right one? FBX for Unity. And I have this set to centimeters, and all of the other settings are at default. As far as I can tell, this comes out right. Now this is what my settings are. In units, instead of like I had it before, I used to have this set to inches. I now have it set to centimeters. When you do this, you need to make your settings, save your file as max start max, and then reload max. So that way there's no translation and confusion errors. And then you'll have to remember, if you've been modeling, using the settings that you would use for Unreal Tournament or something of that nature, you're going to have to go through and remember that now you're using centimeters and not inches, and it's going to try to convert and stuff. So you've got to be aware of that. Under grid and snap, what seems to work best is I have grid spacing for every 100, and that's these lines right here, and that tells us, look at what we got. We got just about, well, it says 5 meters here, but I'll show you what it really is. And I have major lines every 10. Seems to be working. I make sure when you change this, you go to all viewports, and then this is after this, you would save your max start max and turn off and then reload. I got this highlighted because I wanted to show you. 500 and 512 comes into this area here. If you zoom out, you can see that we're not quite on the grid like it looks like. It's just... But it does match up, so it works. You could technically design all of your things here for Unreal using these measurements just fine. And if you take this, and as you'll see in a minute, and import it into Unreal, you're not going to get a weird size because of the centimeter thing. It works. It's kind of hard to explain what I'm trying to teach you here. Anyway, so we've now exported it, so we're going to go over to Unity. And Unity, we're going to go to Terrain, Create Terrain, because obviously we want to be able to see what's going on. I'm going to double click on my camera. And the reason why I did that is so I can see where I'm going in here. Okay, so now we've got this new terrain, and we got my cat. Oh, what the heck? Okay, and that's where we want it. And this is not acting correct. Excuse me a minute, I'm having technical difficulties. What is this preview on for? I appear to be flipped upside down, folks. And it's grinding on me, and I can't get myself right side up. Okay. Come on. That's good enough. Okay, so we need to go to where my stuff is stored. So this is going to take a while because now it's got to do this again. I tried to have these things preloaded so it wouldn't have any problems. I have it set to where profiles are off, so I have everything in here. So we find my 512 cube FBX and we just drag and drop right in there. And it's not letting me do anything, so I have to wait a minute more. Come on. Okay, so we can take my cube and drop it down. And now I can zoom in on my cube if it lets me. It's not letting me. Okay, and okay, so now I want to be able to see this cube in game. So I'm going to press the arrow key here, and I'm going to go to Standard Assets, First Person Control, and just drop it on in there. and you can move this, you know, if you want to, somewhere else. Okay, I'm going to pause this and come back. Okay, I'm back, and now we're in Unreal Ed, and I want to take and import this thing. So I'm going to go to Import, and we've got our wrong directory here. I'm thinking I'm seeing how I can work this. If I pause it before I try to load or open anything, I can make it squeeze through, but I really need a better computer. I don't know how that's going to happen. Oh, excuse me, I'm in the wrong area. File, import. Alright, do. Okay, here we go, 512 cube. Remember, you don't want to put it in any current things. Never save packages that are the default packages after you've changed. If you get that little box up, don't save it. You don't want to do that. You'll mess yourself up. So I'm not even going to bother. Well, I guess I could texture. It wouldn't take that long. Let me see. I think it was right there at the right direct. No. It lost my directory. Wow, this is just not cooperating at all. Pausing again. Hold on. So we're importing my texture, and because I did it with the DDS plugin, I do not need to generate bitmaps. Remembered something from before. Okay, so I'm going to go here and, oh, excuse me. No, don't do that. Okay, static meshes. Okay. And there's our 512 cube. Now I want to prove to you I designed this with a centimeter unit setup in 3ds Max, and it was a 512 pixel setup in Photoshop. And what I'm doing here now is I'm going to prove to you that they are the same. Alrighty, and as you can see, I can snap it in there. Our two textures are exactly the same size. It is 512 pixels on all dimensions because you can go by the texture from Photoshop. It is 512 centimeters in 3ds Max, and yet here in Unreal Ed it is 512 Unreal units. And now to verify that this is a scale that we would expect over here in Unity, I was also kind of showing you how to get a basic thing going in Unity, at least trying. Give me a minute, I'm going to pause, rebuild, and come back. So here I am staring at my cube that I made in Unity, and this is how it looks if you're standing staring up at it. If I jump, you jump pretty high in Unity. It's what you would expect a 512 by 512 to look like. Now, I'm going to pause again. Okay, and now you can see I'm in UT 2004 and I'm looking up at my mesh, and it is a, oh, I can't get my jump button going here. You can't die here, but you can see that it's about the same feel. Yeah, it's the exact same feel and size. In fact, I could stand over here. It's the same thing. So that we know the proportions are correct. Okay, so all I want you to take away from this is that basically all you have to do if you want to design between games with wildly different grid settings, stick with pixels for your textures. In Photoshop, stick with the standard that works the best for the most of them in 3ds Max, and by that I mean if I tried to design with Unreal units in 3ds Max, I would have the grid set instead of 110, you know, major lines every 100, and then the 10, it would be 16 and 8. Yeah. And the problem with that is you can't really snap a whole number like a centimeter, which works in tens and hundreds and thousands, very well onto a 16. But you can take something that's made with a 16 size, snap it into the centimeter values, oddly enough, because centimeter works in the tens, ones, and hundreds. So you could take a 512 cube like we saw, and you can make 512 centimeter out of it, and it works with that grid. But if you took a 500 centimeter cube and put it into the max settings at 16 and 8, you would find that it is off the grid. And if you don't mind designing off the grid, you could do that. But another reason that you want to keep in mind using if you're using for like architectural visualization, which is what we're going to be doing here pretty soon, if you're building buildings or anything of that nature, you're going to want something that coincides to what, you know, a real building would be, and real buildings aren't designed in general in 16s, you know. They aren't designed with 1024 or 512 or any of those common Unreal Universe measurements, but they are designed in meters, feet, centimeters, inches, those kind of measurements, real life measurements. So you just set up your max grid to work the best with both programs. In this case, the centimeter setup and the centimeter snapping, the way that I did, works best for both my Unreal design work and my Unity work. Unity, of course, if you didn't already know, but Unity is using a meter centimeter setup. And now you know the settings for your exporter. You can just go back to the video and save those. You know what to use. You're going to find that your things will coincide in size. Your textures are going to fit. Pretty much that covers it. Hopefully this tutorial will be of some help, helping you know, in the effort of getting you to understand how to work between these different environments with these wildly different sizes. That was the whole purpose of it. Also trying to clarify in my head how this works. I spent a considerable amount of time thinking about it last